Have you ever had a news story leave an impact on you? It can be anything, sad or scary, or maybe even tragic or violent. Seeing more and more stories like this can have an effect on us, maybe even make us feel sad or scared. But it's not like these events are happening directly to us. So what's up with that? There's actually a name for this. It's called vicarious trauma, which is trauma experienced through the feelings of another person. So this can come from hearing stuff on the news, or even hearing a story from a friend or family member. But how do our bodies react to that kind of stuff? And how do we deal with it? We called up Simone Saunders to find out more. Hi, Simone. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Arjun. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of this.
She's a mental health content creator and a social worker with a specialization in trauma.
So vicarious trauma can have the same impact as what you might call regular trauma. So that can look like disturbances in your sleep, either sleeping too much, sleeping too little, experiences of hypervigilance, so that problems with digestion, problems with eating, eating too much, eating too little, isolation.
Honestly, I felt similar things myself. When I was younger, traumatic news made me feel really scared and uneasy. So I want to know, do other kids feel the same way? We asked some kids about their experience with traumatic news. And honestly, it kind of makes you feel less alone.
You know, it could be frustration or anger when you hear about those sort of police brutality cases or cases of unjust discrimination, and disappointment too, because I feel like we should be further as a society when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Every day I would check the cases and the death counts, but COVID kept getting worse and worse, and whenever it went away, it always came back. It was kind of scary.
So we wanted to get advice from someone who deals with traumatic news pretty regularly. So who better to go to than someone who actually works in the newsroom?
All right, I'm in the CBC newsroom. It's a lot bigger than I thought. It's way too quiet, and I don't want to touch anything because I feel like I'm gonna break it. But it's pretty cool. Let's check it out.
Hey, you. How are you, Arjun?
How are you?
Nice to see you. Oh my God, you're taller than me. No, it's so not fair.
This is Adrienne Arsenal. She's the chief correspondent of CBC News and host of The National. Adrienne has been covering disasters and conflicts around the world for more than 20 years. One of them in particular stands out for her.
Early 2000s, there was a tsunami in Indonesia and Sri Lanka. It's completely horrible. And you may have heard the stories of the water was sucked out and then it came roaring back like a train. The Canadian man came to work with the little kids who do some art therapy to help them draw their trauma. And so he gave them paper and crayons and they were writing it out. And they were drawing this angry water and they were drawing their families. And there was this little old lady who was very tiny and all by herself. And she walked up and asked the man if she could have a crayon and paper too. And she sat on the floor with the kids and she drew a wave and drew effectively what was clearly her whole family. And I swear that moment stayed with me longer than some of the images of the bodies or some of the other terrible things I saw.
We spoke about some of the negative ramifications of watching the news and absorbing so much of this trauma. Despite all of that, why is it still important, especially for kids, to stay informed in today's world?
Not everything happens on your block. You're going to run into people who have family far away and they're worried about them. And if you want to build empathy and if you want to understand them, this is going to give you a starting point to understand what they're going through.
Thinking back to the interview, Adrienne had some pretty interesting reasons for kids to keep paying attention to the news. And to think of it, kids have reasons of their own.
Taking action is extremely important, and staying informed and watching the news is one of the best ways we can do so. It's really important that we use those emotions and use them to empower our actions going forward. That's how we make change.
The work that I do, I wouldn't have started it if it wasn't for that global awareness. It's powerful to know the world that you live in. It's powerful to know your surroundings.
This was a lot to take in. We now know that news does affect our mental health. But how do we deal with it safely and responsibly? I've got to go back to Simone. What are some of the ways that kids can use to cope when dealing with traumatic news?
Number one, talking to whether it's parents, siblings, loved ones, trusted people, being able to really try out new coping mechanisms, whether that's trying out breathing, noticing different sensations in your body, trying out journaling, meditation, some of those things that might be helpful, and just educating yourself on a lot of different pieces as well, because I think the more that it's normalized, the easier it is to deal with as well.
So we've learned that dealing with traumatic news isn't easy. And we're so well connected with these things that we're seeing more and more of this kind of content. But like we learned from Simone, there are ways to take care of yourself.
Kind of know that, okay, maybe this is getting a bit too scary for me even. And that means that you need to unplug and connect a bit more with your reality.
It's okay to take a second and to breathe. It's okay to feel happy even when there's bad things happening in the world. And it's okay also if you don't understand everything. That's fine.
We really care about our phones and our tablets and our devices, and that they are charged as often as possible. And we need to take our health just as seriously. So we need to recharge our own batteries by getting enough sleep. We need to take better care of our bodies, just as we do taking care of our iPads and our iPhones.
I'm gonna go for some recharging myself. For CBC Kids News, I'm Arjun Ram.